Today I want to give you a brief overview of the hard problems of user experience management or real user management. So when we first looked at it, we figured out that hard problems, come on, we're engineers. There are no hard problems. There's only challenges. And if you agree, please give me some applause here. Thank you. So yeah, most people know me from Matrix Edition, but over the last year, I had the chance to work with a really great team to really work on real user monitoring. At the conference, you hear a lot of people talking about real user monitoring. And the conclusion that we came to, now, web timing made our lives really a lot easier. We get data we could never envision to get before that. So just getting load times of pages today is kind of a piece of cake. That's what we can already get today in modern browsers. That's not the hard thing. But what we saw, once you start to get this data, people start to ask, let's put it that way, much harder questions. And I'll come with five of those questions and how we managed to answer them. So first question, how can I get insight into CDN and third-party content performance? So what we see today, about 2/3 of page load times are due to ads, social media stuff that you have on your page, CDNs. So just getting insight on your page is pretty hard if you don't monitor the third parties that you have there as well. The challenge? They're not part of your infrastructure. So how do you monitor something that you don't control from an end user's perspective, from the user's browser? Challenge 2, there would be resource timing that could kind of do this for you, but up to today, it's not implemented in any browser out there. So how do you get this information? So we ended up building browser instrumentations, dynamically instrumenting the browsers, really looking at which resources are loaded, how long it takes to actually load them, and as you can see here, seeing how much impact Facebook, Twitter, and in this case also Google APIs has on the page. And I can even go down to really drawing you a sequence diagram, waterfall diagram from the end user's perspective from anywhere around the world. Problem number 2, how can I get actual rendering times? So getting times like onload and so on is really nice. But what I really want to figure out is when was the page really drawn? When did the user actually see the page? So there was a lot of debate on this also in the development tools phase and synthetic monitoring phase, how to really know when the page is rendered, when every content is there. And here the discussion was way easier than it is with end-user browsers because you just can't ask the internet to install your plugin to get this information, and there's no APIs out there. So we did kind of the same. We built that API into the browser simply ourselves, figuring out how long it takes to actually render a page. And as you can see here, depending on screen resolutions, there's a factor 3 times or bigger how long it actually takes the page to render and get these insights. Question number 3, how can I get the monitoring JavaScript onto my page? So I need some JavaScript to get this metrics from me because the browser doesn't provide it natively. So I don't want to change my apps, and very often I can't change my apps. If I'm in ops, I cannot modify the websites. I do not want to kind of modify all the content. You miss some pages, you're not getting that information out there. So what we ended up doing, we ended up building plugins for web servers which automatically add the JavaScript code, as you can see here at the very top, into the page that's responsible for the monitoring. So if you run Apache IIS and so on, it injects it automatically, collects the data for you, manages the right version of that code, turns it on and off. You don't have to do anything to get that data out of it. Challenge number 4. So this is a question that we don't often get, or our customers actually often get. So why did Maria have a problem with the site? So why did somebody have a problem? Somebody's calling customer support. So first challenge is, who is Maria? So how do I know from my RUM data who's actually using the sites? Who was that one user? So at some point, I need to correlate that information that I have the backend in one request and correlate it to a problem on a very other page. And to do that, to figure out what Maria was exactly doing or everybody else on the page, I have to look at every single request on the page, correlate them into a visit, and attach it with all this metadata. So that's kind of what we ended up doing, and as you can see here, I can search for a specific user on my site now, look what the user was doing on the site, and in this case of a JavaScript problem, I can get right there and figure out what the user was doing up to that time and what the problem was. So now we can say what the problem of Maria really was. Challenge number 5, so how can I get user actions or what the user was doing for single-page web apps, also or mobile HTML5 apps? So how can I get information out there? Because web timing obviously isn't helping me a lot here. I just get the initial page load, but that's pretty meaningless for the information I want to get. Here again, yeah, manual instrumentation, putting all start-stop timers in my code. Does it really work? No, it doesn't. It's hard to do. You can't maintain it. You run into errors, and so on. So what we ended up doing, going out there, looking at the big frameworks that are used out there, Sencha, jQuery, XJS, all of those, instrumenting those frameworks right in the browser when they get loaded, hooking into event handlers, and so on, so that we know, okay, somebody clicked on a certain button, that was the text of the button, that these were the XHR requests that were triggered, and that was when it was rendered at the end. So that's my 5 hard questions of real user monitoring and how to solve them. If you want to talk more, just stop by our booth. Happy to talk. Thanks.